Welcome back to Chicken Creek Customs. Today we're going to talk about this bike that we have for sale. This is based on a 1982 Honda CM450A. So this bike was actually built from a trailer full of parts that we rescued from somebody's garage. It's filled with engines, frames, things like that. We challenged ourselves to say, hey, can we build a show bike out of this pile of parts and really make something that'd be fun to drive and actually worthwhile. At the time, we didn't know what we were sitting on in terms of engines, but we decided that was the challenge, so that's what we did. All right, so let's start with what we started with. That's a good place. What we found was a CM450A engine. We basically tore the whole thing apart, and from the stator on down, everything was replaced inside. Cracked the case, mic'd everything. The bike originally had maybe about 7,000 to 8,000 miles on it, something along those lines, so everything was in really good shape. However, we still went through and replaced pistons, all the gaskets, went through and mic'd everything anyway, reset, and retimed the whole thing. And since the stators weren't terribly reliable on these, we went ahead and sent it out to Alabama and had it rewrapped, so we got a brand new stator in this thing as well. So we started with that engine, and we found a frame piece that actually had a tag on it and may not have been the exact matchup to this one, but it was close enough. So this is framed out on an 82 Honda model, and the frame had been cut up. So what you can see back here, all this straight line seating and everything, this is all custom added. So we built a frame into the back end because we wanted to go for a cafe style. When we drew it out, we thought, hey, this could be fun. Of course, we didn't have a tank that was of value, so we found in the pile this 78 tank. This is off a 78 CB. We liked it because it has the cleaner line on it versus the teardrop feel to it. And then, of course, there's a custom seat that was designed to kind of fit the overall flow of the bike. So this was shown for a while. It was built several years ago. It's an older show build, but it's been driven. You know, if you follow us at all, you know that we build stuff, we drive the heck out of it, and then we sell it anyway. So this has about 3,000 miles on it. I think one of the coolest features we did with this one was we took out all the wiring and we added in a Moto Gadget M unit blue that basically puts an electronic brain into the whole bike, and you can run the entire thing from your phone, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Anyway, paint scheme is Porsche gunmetal metallic gray with 3 or 4 coats of clear. The rest of the parts have been blasted, coated, or painted, but it's really kind of cool. So it's got a dual carb setup on it. We converted it over to straight air cleaners. We jetted it up about 5 or 6 to get something that we liked. Still think it probably needs to go down a jet. We also heated up the plugs 1 point, so it runs a bit hotter because of the intake and the rejetting that's in it. Yeah, it holds about 2.5 gallons of gas. It's got Metzler tires on it. We've got a little dent in the pipe where this pipe fell off at one point. But you can see here also, everything in here is new. So even the swing arm bushings, we bought new bushings, went ahead and scrolled those so that we could get them greased properly. All new nipples in here as well. Carbs have all been rebuilt. Everything's been timed. Everything's been vacuumed as well for synchronizing. And brakes have been upgraded and replaced. Same thing front and back. And now there's no fuses in this thing at all. You can go on there, and if you want your blinkers to go at 6 blinks before they shut off, you can set the thing for 6 blinks if you want. Plus it manages and monitors all the maintenance on the vehicle as well. We enter the vehicle in. Like I said, we've put about 3,000 miles on it driving it. It's got a fair amount of scratches. You can see it's got some wear here. But if you've never driven one, this is a super fun bike. Now, if you're a new starter, this is a great bike because essentially it's clutchless. The 800A, or the Honda A series were automatics, and essentially it's just 2 clicks up. You shift up once, no clutch. It'll take you up to about 45 miles an hour. Shift up a second time, it'll take you up to about 75 miles an hour. So this is really a great bike to be riding around town in. That's essentially what we've been using it for, is just a go-getter. It runs out, we can take it into town, zip around on the local streets and whatnot, and it's super fun. You know, it's not a long-term cruiser or anything like that, which is why we went with the cafe style on it. But pretty awesome. So we'll walk through a lot of the detail in it. give you a chance to kind of see it up close and personal as well. Like I said, it's been written. You know, we don't build bikes to just sit around and look good. We essentially build them so that they can run. Even as we built this one, we went through it and tested a few things. We had bought, you know, one of the kits that you put in for all your new gaskets. Didn't like the way it looked. About 1,000 miles, we tore it back down at the top end to take a look at it. Sure enough, the head gasket had flaked on the inside and dropped down into the engine, so we flushed the whole thing back out again, found an OEM Honda, put that in, fixed that problem. Again, it wasn't performing differently. We wanted to see how that build and those new type of supplies actually worked in the actual bike. So from that perspective, worked out great. Everything else on it's pretty much new. So we'll get down to it. Let's go. So let's start in the front end of the bike. So a bunch of different things have been done here that are small, but they're noticeable when you step back and look at it. Aside from the fact that the shocks were cleared and then they were gone, we went ahead and powder coated these in black, blacked out the rims, same thing, powder coated those, and then rebuilt the brake system. We still looked at it, and the traditional Honda has a very high fender that sits above the bike itself. So we went and refabricated the connectors here and dropped that down to get it nice and tight to the wheel because we like it tucked like that. We also went through and took a look at some of the other basics. These forks we were going to replace, but then we looked at them and remembered that these have the air shocks in them. So you can put about 14 pounds of pressure and really have control over the front end of this bike and how it dives. So these have the original sets that were rebuilt on them, and they carry, we run them with about 10 pounds of air in it. Now I weigh a little over 230 pounds, so I need a little more air. Someone lighter wouldn't need as much, but it's got a little nipple on there that basically it's just like a tire. You can essentially leak out air if you want, and it balances in between the two of them. So fresh shock juice in there as well. And of course we did the custom light setup. We run a yellow here because the color accents here were gray and burnt yellow, so you'll see that throughout the entire bike. And then it sits on Metzler Lasertex, and anyone who's worked on these older Hondas knows these are really tough rims to actually find tires for. So it took about 2 months to track these down. We kind of found them during COVID and had those mounted and put on for us. So I really like these. They actually ride really well. You can tilt this bike an awful lot. It's because of the way it's been engineered. You basically just throw your weight and the bike will follow you. So it's got a really nice front patch in terms of how you can steer and control it. It's not super long, so it's not a long tracking bike. It doesn't have a far forward patch on the front or anything like that. So from the front end, that's pretty much it. The turn signals are all, they're the LEDs, which have a little bit of a traditional Bullitt look to them. This bike we've called Bullitt Boy, so essentially anything on it that could have Bullitt highlights and things like that was what we added to it. And of course, if you're ever rewiring one of these old bikes and you want to put in LEDs, sometimes you run into these issues with them blinking incorrectly or not firing properly. When you switch over to the digital brain for this thing, essentially it accommodates for all of that, so you don't have to put any of the different types of resistors in that you would need if you're converting from a traditional to an LED. So a really nice feature, and these can be swapped out. They're standard drill-ins. We customized some mounts for them and basically put them right in with the forks themselves with the triple trees. It's got a standard odometer on it. We don't really use it because the phone carries most of the data that you want to watch. And we couldn't find one without gas tank measures and things like that, which this does not have. So it's there for look, but it's not terribly functional. It'll actually show you miles per hour and things like that, but by and large, we don't really use it for too much. New brake pods put in. We put in the short shifters as well in the front. We've got a dual back and forth on the throttle, so essentially it's got a push-pull model to it. You'd think that one would go to each. It doesn't. It actually goes to a central, which pulls, and then it's got a push that moves it back so that you've got a safety. So if one of these ever went out on you, you'd still have the other one in place, and you could manage to drive it a little bit. Because I've done that before, especially in the 80s when I was young and I drove some of these. I'd always snap the cable at some point in its life, and then I would just go ahead and try and jerry-rig the second cable to get me home. So these old Hondas are really cool, and one of the reasons I love the CB and the CM lines is that there's a couple really unique things about it. first of all, they're bulletproof. You can run these things into the ground. You can run them to, I don't know how many miles you want to put on it, but you can put them on. I know I did when I was younger. But one of the cool parts about it is that it's got electric start, but it's got kick start. And you can see some of the nicks here from kicking this baby over a couple times. But the unique feature of these Hondas is that they are isolated in their electronics. So you could take the battery out of this thing and run the thing and let it go. And as long as it's got a connection from positive to negative, it'll just keep going for you. So that was one of the features I really loved about these. So you didn't need a tight battery. I know that's really a factor today, both in cars and in motorcycles, that if your battery isn't charging properly and isn't up to the 14.5 or whatever the spec is that's required, a lot of times that draws problems into the electronic operation of the vehicle because they work on a bus system instead of a standard old fuse-based system. So while this is no longer fuse, that system inside is a power generator. So when we rewrap that whole thing and put it in that stator is essentially the energy. It's driving that, it's running that power through a regulator, regulating it out to the appropriate voltage, and then pushing it through the bike. Here we plugged in a 1 into 2 dyna, so we don't have separate coils running the actual spark plugs here. We've got a 1 that goes into 2. But it's a really cool feature of these bikes, that over time your batteries die. I don't know why bike batteries have to be so much shittier than basically automotive batteries, but you don't get 5 years out of a bike battery. Typically you're lucky to get 2 or 3. And we don't battery tend them because all we found is that shortens the life on them. So essentially we'll just disconnect them and let them sit, and then give a full charge before season starts and then go riding. It'll run all season. We don't have a problem with the battery once we're going, as long as you're riding the bike on a regular basis. There should be no terminal draws or anything along those lines. But really cool feature of these old bikes is that essentially, battery or no battery, it's gonna go. The challenge with an automatic is that you gotta kickstart it because there's no bump starting it, because there's no clutch. So anyway, pretty cool features of the bike. Like I said, this is an old show bike, so it did look really good, and it's still holding up pretty well. Like I said, it's got chips and some, it's never been laid down, but it's got some chips and some issues with it that just come with the fact that it's being ridden. But she'll fire up, and we'll show you that in a minute. It's cold, obviously, so when we fire it, actually it's really cold because it's getting winter here in Georgia. But anyway, pretty cool setup, fun to ride. So let's take a look at the back end. All right, so let's talk about what we've done back here. So everything's new. The internals and everything for the rear end have been are brand new. We went and found a variation on that tire that we talked about in the front end to match up to the back, so that we could get something that had a nice fat feel to it. A lot of times these older Hondas had very narrow tires in the front and the back, kind of looked like bicycles. So we wanted a better look than that. So we went with a slightly lower sidewall and a wider top line on it to get the fat tire back look that we were looking for on this, and it really just handles beautifully. I love these tires. I've never ridden them before, but like I said, in the thousands of miles we put on this thing, they are really, really good tires, and I really do love the way they hold, and they wear very, very evenly, which was pretty surprising. We've got the heavy-duty chain on here, as you can see, and everything, including here's the rubber protector pad that comes with the, that protects the swing arm from the chain. Even that's brand new. So we did a lot of work finding all these old parts and buying new old stock. It doesn't have its center stand on it, but it does have a kickstand. Also comes with the gremlin bell. Yeah, gotta have those. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's been, it's a custom frame build, really great, blacked out basically with the yellow accents. It's a really cool bike. If you're interested, obviously reach out, hit the site, follow us here if you want to see more. We've got other things that are coming up for sale. Yeah, reach out if you're interested in a really cool Honda bike. So let's talk about the MoRide application and how that works with the motorcycle. It's pretty simple stuff. You simply pull it up. You've got your bike in already. You can select your bike. It'll essentially track you as to where you are. You can then go down here and you can check your logbook, which will tell you the drives you've taken. It keeps track of all that. You can check your maintenance schedule to see where things are. And of course, you've got the bases here. And once you turn it on,
Ride ready.
so it knows when the bike is on. And of course you can go through and change anything you want on the bike itself. Turn it up. And you end up, once you have this on your dash, it's giving you everything, all the statistics on the vehicle itself. And you can of course add and subtract different widgets to this if you want. It's got a whole series of different things you can check where they're available. Obviously, seeing tire pressure, this does not have tire pressure readers on it, so you're not going to be able to add something like that. But then this keeps track of everything for you. Nothing to it. I mentioned before that you can electric start these or you can kick start them. The way this is set up is that it's connected into the phone, so obviously once you turn it on, it announces that the computer's ready to go, and it'll do whatever you need to do when you're ready to do it. So we'll just give this a turn over, give it a little bit of choke. Which I've been running about a month. Of course, the vehicle can be turned on and turned off a number of ways. You can run the switch, which is how I usually do it, or you can turn it on and essentially use your starter button. You hit it once to start, or once you've got it running, you punch it twice and it shuts the bike off. So you got to start thinking a little more digitally versus the old school model. But anyway, pretty cool. A little smoky at the start. Like I said, hasn't started in a while. I forgot to turn the gas on, which is what I was doing while you were watching. So fired up nicely, and it's a great bike to run as well. So our next step will try and get you some riding video on it. Thanks.